Well, howdy ho. Welcome to Carpo's channel again, and welcome to journal entry number 4071, or perhaps vlog entry number 4071. I thought when I just kind of do random thoughts, I'll just call it a journal, but it really is video 4071. I was just looking to see how many I had, and it's unbelievable after 10 years on YouTube. I'm still on YouTube. And I guess it's because it's my journal. It really does help me to get my thoughts out. And I learn a lot from all of you, and I appreciate it. I've been put in my place more than a few times on YouTube. When I talk about a controversial topic and somebody, has a different opinion on it, I always welcome that until people, get to the point where they're acting like dicks. But it's funny because what I have learned is that over long periods of time, some people lose interest in certain channels or ideas because they change their minds or have different opinions. But some people come and go. They might unsubscribe for a while. Like somebody said they unsubscribed a while back and then they, had just come across my channel again. And that's just how it works. I do the same thing. And I kind of use myself as a gauge for like it's difficult because we use ourselves, I guess, as a gauge for determining what we should talk about and what other people want to hear. But for me, it's always been more about what's on my mind. I'll talk about something random like mushrooms instead of current events. So when I do talk about current events, it always feels awkward every time. But maybe that's a good thing for journal entries because the first topic that I couldn't resist was the Let's Go Brandon thing. If you don't know what it is, then I'm not going to sit and explain it. But I wanted to make the point. Well, I should explain it. Okay, there was a guy named Brandon who won a NASCAR race. He was being interviewed by the news, and in the background, everybody's screaming "F Joe Biden." And she says, "Oh, it sounds like they're chanting, let's go Brandon." It wasn't about Joe Biden, and it wasn't about politics even so much as that meme is hilarious because of the media. It was a complete exposure of the hypocrisy and bullshit, and how right in front of live television, when you can blatantly hear what the audience is saying, they're trying to, say that they said something else. It's just so silly and absurd that it reminds me of the fact that media today is like a television, like a reality show. It has been for the last 20 years, but it's really bad now, and it's always humored me that some people are like, yeah, Fox News is full of crap. I listen to NBC or I listen to CNN or, like all of them are crap. They're all basically just biased. They're not journalists, they're commentaries, and they will admit as much. But the funny thing is about this Let's Go Brandon thing is really it shows a suppressed anger and it crosses all boundaries. It's not just anti, I should say, it's not all just conservatives. Many of us on the left are just as disgusted by all the situations going on in Washington. Nothing's really being done for the people right now and hasn't been for a long time. And I'm not surprised, but what I've found is, and does surprise me, I guess, is just how many people just follow blindly what they're told because it fits the narrative of their mindset or what they think to be science and are unwilling to change that, for example, when they see new information or are unwilling to even seek out new information that may conflict with what they believe. The same reason I watch all forms of, commentary. I sometimes just cringe when I'm listening to somebody speak, like Steven Crowder, for example. The guy is just cringe as hell. But listening to the kind of nonsense diarrhea that spews out of his mouth gives me a better perspective on what people like himself are thinking. Just like when I listen to some liberal moron like, the Young Turks just blah, blah, blah and screaming about the right. It's like, it's not educational. I'm not learning anything here, but I am learning how toxic the relationship is between these people who claim that their side is the best when everybody seems to be full of shit. That's my blatant, honest opinion on it. You're not even allowed to be independent anymore. But newsflash, more people are independent than either Democrat or conservative. People vote reluctantly, and a lot of people don't at all. It's a complicated issue, and people want to oversimplify it as being, you know, like two teams fighting. It's really ridiculous. So the funny thing that I found is that if people, well, not funny, I guess, but if people are not heard, they will speak louder. And if you, they will say the most extreme things. So if you respond or try to censor people, excuse me, for what they say, it will always backfire. Like that's one of the rules through history that has been shown over and over, that if you try to censor speech in any way, shape, or form and tell people where they can't share their information or what they can and can't say, then people will focus more on that issue. So to give you an example, somebody leaves a hateful comment to somebody or a racist comment in a video. People respond. In the old days, a lot of people would respond and it'd be, just scathing remarks back. A lot of the times you'll see a comment like that these days that just sits alone. Nobody has any interest in even interacting with it because you can tell the person is just looking to get a rise out of others. And when that's the case, it's like you realize that when people buy into it, if there's no real discussion being had, then all it does is makes things worse and allows people to feel vindicated in hating on others. And I think that this is really, there's such a failure of media today that I am not surprised that people don't. The poll numbers, the votes for the videos are just so horrible. And it's not just because, a group of extremists seeks these videos out to vote them down. There are a lot of people who are just pissed at the media for all the crap that they portray. Yeah, I can go on about that one, but I guess that's perhaps enough on the discussion of that angle. But I do feel still like, for example, I should clarify before I finish that up that the whole "Let's Go Brandon" thing I think is very childish and very pathetic. I mean, but you see it everywhere, and it's just going to be another one of those things that ties itself to the idea of free expression, that people feel they can't say what they really want to say. But at the same time, it's not a resolution to just say F you to people. The problem is so much deeper than the figureheads, and we always give the presidents too much credit, not realizing, of course, that all of the big issues come from, corporate America, the profits that are being made, and the media just carries the fucking torch. It's a weird time. Weird fucking time. Everybody gets labeled, classified. Everybody's unique, though. And everybody's true independence seems to be coming out. And everybody is more than willing to talk about how they feel right now. It's kind of like sometimes it goes too far. People do speak out and they do have things to say, but often others don't want them to say it. It brings me to the next part of my discussion, Dave Chappelle. I watched the Closer, a while back there. Great show. I mean, I love Dave Chappelle. I always have, and he's a funny ass dude. Makes me laugh out loud, for real. And I wanted to label two people in this category. On one hand, you've got Dave Chappelle, who makes extremely crude jokes beyond anything you could possibly want to hear if you're super sensitive ears. But for me, it's all about intention. It's all about what does he intend behind his, discussion about trans or about different races. It's very hard for people to call him, a full-blown racist because he's black, right? And there's that other controversy, right? People are so sensitive they don't even know how to address the topic. But there's a whole movement of people who are like, cancel Dave Chappelle, right? Sorry, baby, it ain't gonna happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen because he is who he is, and so many people find him entertaining that he will find an audience. You can't cancel people who are doing just fine. Dave Chappelle is doing just fine. But on the other side of that is Joe Rogan, who isn't a comedian, but he is a deep thinker. He's got his own opinions on things. He is despised by so many people. And I've always wondered exactly why. I didn't like him much at first, many, many years back. And I grew up watching Joe Rogan on Fear Factor. And I always thought, God, he's kind of cheesy. The whole thing's cheesy. I didn't like the way that people put on these acts on TV. And perfect example is it was the beginning of the reality shows, which you found out later, of course, none of them were really reality. And that's in the beginning of this video when I talked about the whole of media and all this shit being like a reality show. It's like that's kind of where we're at right now with government. Like it's just such a joke. You can tell that people are going through the motions, but anyhow, Joe Rogan grew on me very quickly when he, started his podcast growing, and I was like, okay, he's open-minded, he's thinking for himself, and he's asking questions. And when I heard how many times he was taken out of context and called a transphobe, a homophobe, I mean, any name in the book's been thrown at the guy, and that's why I like him. Because I've found that there is a small sect of the society who are super triggered and upset by every little thing that happens and everything somebody says. If they see a clip on the news about something that Joe Rogan said on a podcast, well, they're not going to go listen to the podcast. No, they're going to go tweet about it and complain about it and not even give the full context of the discussion. It's rage bait and it's bullshit. Even guys like George Takei, which I think the guy's pretty funny. Oh my, that guy, oh my, I'm George Takei. He's that Asian dude, and I guess I think he's gay. So he tweeted something the other day about Joe Rogan being a transphobe, I think, and he just got a lot of fucking flack for it because it's like, did you even watch it? Something about being Asian phobic, even though his wife's Filipino, and he made a joke about that at the show. I watched the whole thing, and the things he said, what the media is saying about it is so absurd because they don't even watch his shit, Chappelle, and they don't listen to Rogan's podcast. It's like what happened when Rogan interviewed this guy Neil the other day, Cavuto, was that who it was? He's the guy from CNN, and basically put him in his place and kind of shamed CNN for all their bullshit news. And then they brought the guy on to CNN afterwards for damage control, and basically just put little clips of the show up without giving the full context of the 3-hour interview. And what they said in there was, oh, that was a kind of a tongue-in-cheek interview, huh? And he was coerced, to just kind of go along with their banter to protect their image. But CNN is dead. I mean, they're not gonna last. But it's just funny to watch them do things like that, and you see like a 2-minute clip total, 2 minutes worth of clips, and you think about a 3-hour interview. That's not tongue-in-cheek. That's two people talking deeply. And that's what I like about Joe. He's not afraid to talk about anything. Just like that's what I like about Chappelle. He's willing to talk about shit that others won't, and does it in a way where he doesn't hate. He's not a hater. And anybody who calls him a hater just doesn't get it. And that's the whole point. That's what comedy has come to right now. Strange time to be alive. Well, what else should I talk about on the last part of my podcast here? My little midday discussion. I made a video actually about a lot of these topics yesterday, and it was about a half an hour long, and something happened when I was transferring it to my computer, and I corrupted it, and I lost it. And it's kind of disappointing. I talked a lot about the differences in men and women and how racism is being used everywhere as a kind of a way to play victim by a lot of people. Just like people say, well, oh, you must be transphobe because you have an opinion about, men who transition and then become weightlifters, that kind of thing. There's no discussions being had because people are afraid to have them, and I want to be able to have those talks. I'm definitely open to all those more difficult discussions, because if I ever close my mind to something that's going on in the world because I'm afraid of being canceled or having somebody be offended, then I don't feel like I'm being true to myself, which is why the main premise or theme of that video I made yesterday was silence is not violence. And I've heard several interviews with people who claim that, let's say white people, right? And if you want to use that term, I'm not going to put it lightly, but need to speak up about injustices, and they need to do this and need to do that. If they're not speaking up when they see others being wronged, then they are to blame and they're part of the problem, and therefore that's violence. And I completely disagree with that. Just like I would say also language is not violence. You can definitely assault someone by definition with language, but it's not, that's just a verbal assault. That's not the same as just using a word by saying an offensive word where somebody takes it the wrong way and says, oh my goodness, you must be a hater, a racist, a bigot, whatever it might be. Look, I don't have a bigoted bone in my body. I mean, I see things as odd or different than me. That's kind of natural. Like, I see things around me and I question them and I go, oh, why are people this way? Why are people that way? But even in today's world, you can't do that. The science doesn't allow people to speak up. They're unable to talk about issues like, why are men and women different, for example? Well, they're not. Of course, they're exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference. That's kind of the way we're treating every topic right now. And never have I seen it. So many narratives pushed. Whoa, that was a big windstorm out there. It's supposed to be pretty breezy today. But there's a lot of virtue signaling out there, and a lot of people who kind of use their position as a crutch, thinking that everybody is oppressive, that everybody else is out there to get them. And the thing is, a lot of us feel that way, but it's not because of our race or our sexual orientation, but just because we're human beings and because we're afraid of being alive. And a lot of us feel shitty a lot of the time, and we should not be blamed as individuals for what people do that are the same color as us. So, for example, me being a white male, if somebody were to tell me your silence is violence, I would say, why? And you'd say, well, if you're a white person not speaking up, that is racism to me. That's assuming that because I'm white, I don't do something, or I haven't. It's worth talking about, but it's very difficult to navigate that terrain. And people are so disconnected from one another, and we've become so anti-intellectual right now that we really just want to reduce everything to sound bites and insults. It's really dishonest, I think. And the colleges right now are taking the brunt of it. And 5 years ago, I didn't even realize it was this bad, but I've learned a lot, I'm embarrassed with my fellow liberals for their behavior, if you want to put it that way. And it's kind of shameful. And I found that a lot of these people who formerly were called social justice warriors, who a few years back, if you mentioned it, I would say, oh, that's me. I'm a social justice warrior. I care about social justice. I care about the environment. I care about people. But no, not by the definition of people who enjoy battles. There are people out there who their whole thing is battle. They are warriors for one cause or another, and they're constantly looking to agitate. And the problem here is that I'm glad that people are standing up for things that are wrong. I was behind Occupy Wall Street and many of these movements that wanted to stop tyranny and corruption. But some of these, offshoots and smaller organizations, we have every right to distrust people's intentions. A lot of people make a lot of money off of other people's fears, put it that way. And that's especially with the media. And this is why deeds, not words, matter. Everyone talks. It's what you do, not what you say. And, an unfortunate side effect of this is that young conservatives are using all of the liberal chaos and the way that Democrats have been acting as a recruitment tool for, going to their side. And just want people to just back up for a minute and say it doesn't have to be a side. You can actually talk from both points of view. You don't have to assume that all conservatives or all liberals are morons. We can have this discussion as adults, I think. But if we reduce everything we think about left and right politics down to the Antifa and the Proud Boys, little tiny groups of children fighting in the streets and doing cosplay, and we think that that's the defining factor of what our city or our state or our country is, then we're missing the point, and we need to get back on track. Talk to your neighbors, your friends, your family. Look them in the face when you have these discussions, and you'll find that you usually get along and agree more than you think. Even talking with my friend's brother the other day, who's a conservative guy, and he's like, Josh, I think you're conservative and you don't realize it, or something to that effect. And I was like, no, 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 I'm not either. I'm just a person who tries to viewpoint, look at things from a viewpoint where it's rational rather than being um, hyperbole. So that's what I got for today. I'm going to head out, get some shit done. I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.